We still do, we still do.
We still do after all this time at the altar. I alter my mind and vow to God I love you till he make his return. The rain should be the least of your concern. Under God's umbrella, I promise to provide and preserve his word and to serve your mind and spirit. Let me drive the boat. I promise I'ma steer it. The devil cannot get near it. You'll know as soon as you hear it. You need me, I need you. Even after the altar, we still
Forever
do.
and always, gonna love you with all.
I think it's another thing that they did in terms of the 1/3 was they had a strong friendship. And there is a sense of like togetherness. Like we in the trenches together, where the weight of that didn't solely fall on one person. And one thing that I remember us doing when we had our newborn, like Jaden would be right there on the couch and he would be knocked out, and like we would be playing a board game or something, like just to still find ways to connect in the moment, to laugh, to keep from crying a lot of the times. But when you genuinely just have somebody that's like, okay, ride or die, like no matter what, I got your back, I think that makes a difference. And in sharing the load, I remember as a newborn, like, okay, there was times where I had to get up to feed him and then you would get up and do the diaper changes. And like, you know, we shared the load. So it didn't feel like the weight was just on me. But I believe that's part of that 1/3, you know, of just having a strong friendship and being together in the trenches of parenthood.
Yeah, I would even say, I think where we've struggled the most in our marriage is when we weren't intentional about our friendship. When we weren't intentional about date nights, when we weren't intentional about
for sure.
check-ins, when we weren't intentional about making sure that we're there just to listen or whatever. Like, I think that's where we've had our most difficult moments.
Yeah.
Because even in conflict, when we do have our differences, they're the most intense when we haven't been strengthening our friendship. And I think that's the problem a lot of couples fall into, is they feel like love is enough.
Yeah.
They feel like I love you, like I provide for you, or, you know, I'm taking care of you, or we got our roles together, you know what I'm saying? And we're just doing what we need to do to function as a family. And it's not just a matter of building the friendship.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and I think the same person who did this research that we came across was the same person who said at the base, at the foundation of every strong marriage is a strong friendship. And so it makes sense why, like, the people who, the 1/3 who were successful, you know, the 34% were successful, is because when you have a strong friendship, the conflict isn't as sharp. The conflict isn't as harsh.
That's true.
You're more likely to look out for the good of them rather than just saying what comes to your mind. Because when we say I love you, we feel that that's everlasting. We're not God. We don't have unconditional love. And unconditional love in the sense of like unlimited. Like his love is going to be the same no matter what. Our love, like it goes up and down.
Yeah.
And we feel that that's enough to sustain us when it's not. I would argue, liking your spouse is more important than loving your spouse. I'm gonna just throw that out there.
Yeah, I can see that, because we know that love is a choice and it's a commitment, right? But there's gonna be times where it's like, I don't love you right now. And
what do you do in that moment?
if you have a friendship to where you actually like them, though, I think you still solid. Like you still gonna be good. You still have something to stand on, you know? Even in the moments where you're not feeling all the feels of love, there's still this like for this person and this enjoyment with being around them, you know? So I definitely think it'll anchor you in the moments where love may not feel present.
Yeah, it's almost like love is an action, but like is a attitude.
That's good.
Because when you love, you choose. Like whether it's there or not, like you still make the choice. But when you like, I'm gonna approach you a certain way because I have a certain care, a certain respect for you. And I think that especially couples who are serious about their relationship with Christ, it's something about being close to Christ that changes your attitude. Like Paul said it like this, um, in Philippians, and I'm paraphrasing, like to have this attitude of humility as Christ had. And then he also went on to say, like, consider others more important than yourselves. When you consider others more important, then that means that you approach them with a certain reverence or a certain respect. And I think that you would view them in, uh, as being made in God's image and in his likeness. And when you see them that way, then you don't just see them as like my wife. No, you see them as God's son or God's daughter. And that causes you to approach them a certain way. So I think like making the like loving you is the action, but you can still have a terrible attitude. You know what I'm saying? Like I
Mm.
remember there were times I remember there were times where like what was it? We would go on trips, and we would go on these trips, and you would get pissed because I'm on these trips and I got a terrible attitude.
Oh,
You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Like, I love you. I'm going. We celebrating all the things, but because my attitude is not conducive for the type of time we trying to have,
Mm-hmm.
it messed up the whole
Messed up
trip.
my mood.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like it messed up your mood. And so love is the action, but you know what I'm saying? Like liking them just takes it to a whole nother level.
Yeah. For those that have or are in the trenches and experiencing the decline in marital satisfaction, I think it's important to share the U curve, right? And so there is this decline that you may experience, but then it also curves and it also goes back up, meaning that the marital satisfaction does increase and does come back. You just got to ride the curve of that thing that happens. And of course, part of that is empty nesting when they're not so needy as they become more independent as they're growing. But it's not something that is like, oh my gosh, we're doomed. We're experiencing this lack of satisfaction in the marriage. And if you are, then we're giving you literally the ways that you can kind of combat that, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Strong friendship, sharing the load, healthy conflict management, and finding times to connect, to have an emotional connection. So that way you're not like two ships passing in the night, and you don't want this little needy, precious, little cute baby
Yeah.
is taking everything, but that there is no focus at all and you neglect the marriage. I think that has to still be prioritized even in those seasons as we navigate parenthood. One thing that worked for us prior to having our first child, we have two. We said, okay, once he's 6 weeks, we're going to go on a date. And we'll go on a date every 2 weeks, instead of a weekly date. We kind of pushed it out, spaced it out a little bit. That was doable for us at that time.
Yeah.
But we prioritized our time for connection. And I feel like even to this day, like we do a weekly date night, those are the moments was like, it's like refreshing time away, time for just us to connect, to talk uninterrupted, to eat and not share. It's those moments I feel like that is like the glue in the tough times when you feel like you're in the trenches,
Yeah, that's good. And just thinking about like you can almost look at the U shape as kind of like the stages of like marriage, like the honeymoon, the
Oh,
reality,
reality,
the
the
growing.
growth.
It's like when you're
Yeah.
at the bottom of the U, it's like the reality.
Mm-hmm.
It's like this is the reality of what it's like to have a kid. This is the reality of where we are. Like my overall attitude towards our relationship is decreasing, but it doesn't mean that we're doomed.
Yeah.
And so even though we're at the bottom of this curve, like we still can find contentment here. We still can find happiness here. It might
Yeah.
not be as blissful as it was because we didn't have this responsibility and we can just go on date nights. We can just have fun. We can do whatever we want all around the house and just, you know what I'm saying, enjoy it to that capacity.
Yeah.
But now that we have this responsibility and it's draining us, we still can find contentment, happiness, joy in this moment. And although, and this is the thing, when we're talking about marital satisfaction, we're not talking about your love decreasing.
Right.
Because I think even though your marital satisfaction decreases, your love can still increase.
Absolutely.